Welcome back, everybody, to another episode of Management Unfiltered. I'm Zach Shelley.
And I'm Kirk Teachout.
And that's when you introduce the episode.
I thought we were going back and forth. Dang it. Okay. Yeah. So, hey, today we are going to be going over our origin stories because honestly, I like knowing where people come from and their approach to things based off of where they came from, right? It's very interesting to see like how people's perspectives change based off of their backgrounds. And so today we're going to be going back and forth, asking each other questions, seeing our journeys to get us there, from skateboarding rock stars to dental.
It's wild. I think we're probably two of the only people that have the backgrounds that we have that have come into dentistry and now like what we're doing. But I kind of want to put a little sidebar on there, Kirk, because I want people to know, like, we messed up the intro of this show, but that's completely what the show's about. It's completely unfiltered. Like, we're not hiding who we are. We're not editing out all these wild things. Like, we want you to see who Zach Shelley is and who Kirk Teachout are. And we're real people. We're real dudes. We love connecting with people. We love, growing dentistry and just giving everything that we possibly can. Kirk and I have both, like, I think very, very like-minded mindsets as far as like having an abundant mindset. And that's what we're here for, is to share. So Kirk, why don't, as we get out of that little sidebar there, I just wanted to make that known to everybody because we're here to have fun. Like, this is going to be probably the most fun podcast you'll ever be a part of, guys, that you're listening. So continue to subscribe, like, share to all this. But Kirk, you talk about like skateboarding rock stars. Like, a lot of people have already maybe heard, my background story. So let's start into yours first. Like, what did you do? Like, before this, were you a rock star that skateboarded?
I did skateboard. I skateboarded, but the skate park in our town was on the other side of the tracks. So I didn't get to go there very often, but my uncle was a skateboarder in the 80s. And so he built a half pipe in our backyard. So me and his sons were on there all the time, for sure.
But that's not your claim to fame. What's your claim to fame, Kirk? Like, let's hear your history before dentistry, before all the fun stuff with you and your wife owning a practice. Like, what is your history, dude?
For sure. I've always been a numbers person, but I grew up in a family that, at Thanksgiving, Christmas, like we all got together, we all played different instruments and we would just pass them around and play music. So music's always been a part of my life. So naturally, through growing up and the things that happened growing up, like that was my outlet, was music. So I learned how to play guitar first. I switched to drums, or really started playing drums as well as guitar when I was in junior high, high school, all the way. I was on the drum line all the way through college, and then started playing in bands and touring and doing the music stuff, right? Skinny jeans, long hair, V-necks all the time. I can't say I never wore eyeliner, but I can say that I only did it once and I never did it again. Okay. I was like, this is too much. But had a lot of fun. But in that, right, in the music industry, I had to create, and with my bandmates, we had to create such an awesome experience through our branding, through our marketing, through just a show that had to evoke so much emotion in somebody to get them to move their feet to the merchandise table to spend 99 cents on a song, right? All of that work led to that return. So now that I can bring that to the dental field using the exact same methods that we did in dentistry, or like in the bands and in music, it's really fun, and it's a lot easier because it's with things that people actually want. It's not just a commodity, like people actually need it. So, that was where it started. And then it landed up to my wife going to dental school. And my goal was to make more than she did by the time she got out of dental school. And I did, doing nursery rhymes for some of the top YouTube channels in the world, ironically. And then just started producing music, started managing artists on American Idol and The Voice. And then my wife was like, okay, will you help me if I buy a practice? So I was watching our two children at the time when she made that decision. And then we made it together, cumulatively. Yeah, I'll step back a lot from music. I'll still watch our kids, but when we move, I'll help you with the business side and we'll learn together because business is business. Operations is operations. So it's just learning the nuances, right? But that was in September of 2019. So if we do the math, right, as we talked about in the last episode, that's 6 months prior to COVID, and then the rest is history. But that's my background is just music and going from being a touring artist, being a producer, working with big bands, managing them, which is honestly coaching. I mean, that's coaching artists to be the best that they can be and building their businesses with them. So naturally, it was easy to get into this space and start coaching doctors too.
Well, there's a few pointers, like, right, like you first talked about, like with the band, like creating experience, something that gets them to the merch table. That's no different than what we do in the dental practice every single day. Like, we get patients to come in the chair. We want them to remember who we are because of the amazing experience that they had. So with my background, right, like I was a professional skateboarder, and you talk about like rock and roll and you talk about bands, like, I remember skating, a half pipe in front of the stage for Red Jumpsuit Apparatus for this massive show. We're like skateboarding while they're rocking, like super cool, right? Like, but you're creating that experience people don't forget, right? And when I was competing and traveling and, you get in front of these judges and your run comes up, right? Like, I'm thinking of tricks like, what are they going to remember most? And one of my biggest claims to fame in competing was my Miller flip. It's literally a backflip hand plant. And when I did that, it was my last trick every single time because I wanted them to remember me doing a backflip, because you're making that experience so that they remember exactly what happened and remember who I am. And you're able to connect with those people in just a different manner when you're able to create that experience that's unforgettable. And I think that's where you and I have become so successful in being able to build our practices, is because we understand that. And a lot of times, like you said, business is business, systems are systems, but like, if you can't figure out how to be unforgettable in a good way, a lot of people are really good about doing it in the bad way, where people will never forget about you for things you've done poorly. But we want to do it well. And that's what I love about your story, my story, because, I was a dental tech for 11 years after I got out of skateboarding, before I even got into practice management. But like we've talked about this before, and viewers, if you heard our episodes before, like, that gave me an opportunity to see patients on the opposite side of the spectrum that are actually like, I'm on their side of like, hey, how can I make your prosthetic better, or your crowns or your bridges better, to where you feel confident and comfortable smiling? Once again, we're talking right into that patient experience, which, Kirk, you teach on that, dude.
Yeah. I mean, the patient experience, right? It's anytime I have a new hire, especially in the front, right? We talk about the patient experience and how it's honestly a circle. You want it to be as smooth and frictionless as possible from front to back. So that way, when they get to the front, it's once again as frictionless as possible after they've been back in the clinic and out the door. And when you can do that and take away a lot of these barriers and hurdles, that, yeah, sure, it happens. But if we can make it as smooth as possible, then those patients become a walking billboard for you. Right? You don't have to ask them for a review because they want to leave a review. It's so much easier when you take away those barriers, for sure.
Yeah, let me ask you, Kirk, because like you and I feel like we have an advantage of an ass, like, in a way, right? Because we have the experience of being in front of large crowds and lots of people, and like the wow factor. How do you bring that patient experience, somebody that's not from skateboarding or music industry, like, where we kind of have that kind of, I would say, a little more naturally comes to us because we know what people want and what they look for. But like, how do we give that to our team to give them that wow factor, like seamless patient experience where the patient's like, holy crap, this is amazing?
Yeah. I think part of it is you need to start with figuring out who your ideal patient is, right? Which I think it kind of glazed over, like, yeah, we want good patients. Okay, but that's not your ideal patient. Like, who is your actual ideal patient? So for us, for instance, it's people who maybe have insurance, but are not insurance driven, right? They're not the ones necessarily that say, well, what does my insurance pay for? Well, we don't want insurance to dictate treatment. We want to be able to get you 100% healthy, right? So that's a huge one. Trying to focus on patients that are not just asking, well, what does my insurance cover? Another one is people who respect your time, right? And that seems kind of like a little vague, but still, yeah, like that's kind of a prereq for our practice, because we're trying immensely hard to build a schedule that respects our patients' time, right? So our reception area, as we've grown, has not been expanded intentionally because we don't want people to be waiting, right? It's not a waiting room. It's either a patient lounge or reception area where we receive them and then take them to the back, right? The only people who are really sitting up there are family members and spouses and kids. Like, that's it. So that way, when we get them back immediately, we get the treatment done immediately, and then we get them out. Once again, that patient experience, it's smooth. We receive them, we get them to the back, we do the things we need to as clinically efficiently as possible as well. And then it goes to the front. We already have estimates ready. We let them know, we schedule them, and they're out the door. You don't have to necessarily have, warm towels. You don't have to have different things that really take it even a next level to have a good patient experience. Yes, we have a drink cooler in the reception area. Yes, we, have certain things. We don't have the warm towels, but still, yeah, you don't have to be a med spa, okay, in order to actually have a great patient experience. You just need to be able to respect their time. And then naturally, if you respect their time, they respect your time. Yeah. So you have your ideal patient, you respect their, or they respect your time. That's another quality. And then also people who just you enjoy talking to, right? I mean, naturally, as skateboarders, as musicians, like, people are going to flock to you and be a fan in general of you and your office and the people in the office, right? So all we have to do is be ourselves, right? With a standard, of course, right? Be ourselves with a standard of professional care. And naturally, the people who are like us and that we enjoy seeing will refer more people like them back to our office, which is the reason why, like, even though we get, 50, 60 new patients every single month, 80% of those are referrals. Because naturally, those people because we've nailed our patient experience, those people want to invite their family members, their friends, and people who are like us. And the ones who leave upset because I've dismissed them because they're not meeting our standard, they will tell all their friends. And I'm okay with that, because birds of a feather flock together. And naturally, their friends are not the people who I want in my practice. So they're doing the job for you. I don't have to do it.
So I was going to kind of piggyback off what you're saying, like what we're doing for our patients and being like authentic with them and open with them and kind of getting like finding similarities and commonalities with these patients, right? But the other part of this puzzle that we need to remember to bring in, and I'm hoping doctors are listening to this. I know office managers are, because you'd be silly if you're not, and I'm going to call you out. So when you hear this, you'd be like, dang, I've been missing out. But you, as the owner doc and the office manager, need to have that same passion for your team, for them to get on the same page of your excitement about your passion with dentistry. Because if they could give two craps about coming in and serving your patients, they're the wrong person for your team. If they're not passionate about dentistry like you are now, they don't have to have the equivalent amount of passion, right? You've been to dental school, even the OM, like you've worked really hard to get where you're at. But if you're not leading with that force of experience for your patients and showing how important that is, your team has nothing to push themselves. Like, so we need to come as leadership down, especially owner doctor, and saying, not in a dictatorship way, but saying, we are serving our patients. We are giving them the best possible experience. I want you to sit in the chair and experience this as a team member and tell me how it makes you feel. I want you to tell me if I'm running late when you come to an appointment, that pisses you off, right? Like, I hate when people are running late because you've guaranteed a time for me. If somebody says, hey, I'm going to do X, Y, and Z on this date, and I've hired them to do it, I expect it to be done. Likewise, if we tell a patient 6 months in advance, we're going to see you on this date at this time, and then we don't see them at that date and time, we don't respect their time. So it kind of goes right back into the same part, like what you're saying is like getting patients that respect our time. We have to respect theirs right back. And we got to be able to stay on schedule. So it goes right back into funneling into having a schedule that is great for the patients, but also great for us, and ultimately best for how we run our practice. But I think it really just comes in with that genuine like authenticity and confidence that like we're going to come in and we're going to give you the best possible care. And I'll tell you, day in and day out, I have patients tell us all the time, like, we love your practice so much. Like our insurance changed. You guys don't even accept our insurance and we still come to you because of how you treat us. And those are things that like, it all goes back to like, you have to look out to what the experience is for the patient and what they're not going to forget. And they're not going to forget the good things, but it's the true and genuine good things. Because we can do it, we can fake it, and it feels fake. Like it does not feel real. And that's where we miss the mark.
Yeah. Well, and like you said, people can feel it. And as Julius in Remember the Titans says, attitude reflects leadership. Right. So, you're talking about, team members, but honestly, your team will never be any more than what you are. So if you are not, sure, you may be having a bad day, whatever, like that's the tough part of leadership. You got to be on, right, all the time. But still yet, you still have to be optimistic, to go in with a passion, at least to provide the best care possible in a way that meets the standard of your office. So that way your team will lead you. Because once again, it's like, as long as they can do 80% of what I'm coming in with, then that's amazing. But, due to the law of the lid, I'm having several of my clients right now read the 21 Irrefutable Laws of Leadership by John Maxwell. I read it every year, but the first law is the law of the lid. It's like, if you're a 5 out of 10 as a leader, your team will never get above you, period. Right. And you won't be as effective above that. Right. So like they, even if they get to where you are, if they start growing higher, they're going to leave because you're not effective. Right. So you have to raise your lid and to become that more effective leader. And obviously, like, it's hard work sometimes, but we have to be on as leaders to lead our team, to be passionate about the patient experience. So that way it all goes smoothly and we respect their time and we attract more of those like-minded individuals.
Yeah. I posted in my group the other day, Kirk, the post of what's the hardest part of leadership, just asking all the OMs, right? Like asking, there's a bunch of docs in there too. And like just the plethora of answers that they bring out and things I don't even think about. But one that really stood out to me was someone had posted in there, leading well on the days you want to run away screaming. And I was like, dang, I think about that. I'm like, yeah, on those hard days, like that's exactly what we're talking about, is like, pull your pants up, put your face on, be a man or a woman and just say, hey, it is what it is today, but I'm going to lead with confidence. I'm going to lead with clarity. I'm going to be strong and I'm going to push through this because I don't want to. I just want to walk away. I want to punch somebody in the face because you're annoying the heck out of me, or, you got that call out again, or whatever it may be. Like, it's a plethora of things, but like, that's what brings that true leadership in, is you're able to just not so much ignore it, but they absorb it, right? For the moment, before you can kind of pick it apart and say, this is not going to affect how we treat our patients today. And that's what defines these practices that are in that top 10% in the nation, is the ones that treat their patients that way. That's where you get those reviews. Like you said, patients will put reviews in without even submitting them and asking for them because they believe in what you're doing. They want other people to experience what they're experiencing. That's what everything is in this world, is experience.
It creates that community. I mean, that's the reason why your group is growing so fast, is because of the culture of the community, right? Because of, this group or that group, like not meeting the standards that they're wanting. And so naturally, with that abundance mindset, like we have, people are gravitated towards that and they're just wanting to help each other. Right. And it not be toxic like we tend to be, because misery loves company. But if we can stay on, right, and there will be a time where you're going to have to moderate it to where it's just like, okay, guys, we're going to have to pull back the reins, right? But if we do that and keep that standard, naturally more people will gravitate towards it, and we'll be able to impact way more people that way.
Yeah, I was talking to my wife. We were driving to Fort Wilderness a couple months ago to go camping, and we're going there again soon for my youngest son's 7th birthday, and just can't wait because he's dude. You should come. Bring the kids. We'll have a blast. Yes, it's amazing. We're not Disney people, but they do camping right. Like, it's amazing. We're not big on crowds, but we love being outdoors, and Disney does a really, really good job with that. But that's a sidebar. We're driving there, right? And I'm talking about another project, and we're gonna have lots of squirrel moments on this because I'm pretty sure I have ADD or ADHD, and I don't know. That's self-diagnosed, but sometimes I have hard staying on subject, like I'm telling you now. But either way, we're gonna circle back. We're going to Fort Wilderness. We're driving in the car, and I'm talking to my wife, and we talk a lot about like what we're doing at the practice, but then also like what I'm growing with the group and whatnot. And this isn't a sales pitch on that, but she said something that resonated with me, and that's where I want y'all to realize that are listening to this, especially docs. Like, you're talking and listening to two people that are completely outside of dentistry that had no business being in dentistry until we fell into that spot, right? And now we have all the business to be in it. But my wife said something that was super, super important, and it stuck with me. I told her I was going to steal it, but I've got to give her credit for it because it was gold. And she said, one thing that you're building, she goes, you're building culture over kingdom. And I thought about that, and I was like, whoa, pause for a minute. And I was like, let's dissect this a little bit. And a lot of people, we talk about that culture, right? And patients are going to pick up on your culture and your practice before anybody. The kingdom factor is you have one person that's sitting over top of everybody dictating down. That isn't culture. That is a kingdom. And they're all following one leader, and they do as they say, or, do what they're told. And leaders doing whatever they want, honestly, but they're just dictating down. So I really want you guys to really think of that as you're listening to this episode and bringing back into your next days of practice, that you want to build a culture over building a kingdom. And that byproduct of a great culture will build something way better than you could ever imagine. And patients pick up on that all day long. Like, I had my team yesterday was like, are you okay? I was just worn out from the weekend, dude. Like, I had done so much work at the house, and I was just gassed. So I came in, probably looked a wreck. Like, my hair was not perfect and pristine like it always is. Kirk and I both have really awesome hairdos, by the way. But I walk in and I felt fine. I wasn't upset. I'm just going to get Kirk to laugh as much as I can on this show. I'm so excited about this. But I walk in and I'm nothing's wrong, but my whole body language shows like defeat or whatever. And everybody's like, are you okay? Are you okay? I'm like, no, I'm good. I'm just wrecked. Like, I am absolutely exhausted. But like, how we present ourselves, whether we realize it or not, makes a massive difference in our day to day.
For sure. And I think that's where a lot of, even my wife gets burned out because, like I said, like you have to be on all the time. You can't have an off day. But there's vulnerability that can still happen, right? I mean, you can be honest with people and genuine with people without tearing down the culture.
100%. Being vulnerable is probably the key in doing that. Brené Brown with Dare to Lead is a great example of how she teaches through that book, like what to do to have these battles and how to be vulnerable with each other. And I think it's a great point, Kirk, because we're all burned.
Yeah. Because let's be honest, everybody who is listening to this, we all know that managing people is the toughest part of a dental office. Period.
Preach it, brother.
Let's be honest. Okay. It's the toughest part, and we don't get to talk about it that much, but it is so hard. I mean, people quit over that piece alone, right? Because they don't, and it's like people go back to being an associates because of that piece alone. So, if we're able to be vulnerable in ourselves, even though we're having a bad day, but still create a standard of culture that we really need to have and still provide the best clinical care and the best experience possible, which is possible. There's so much that's said in authenticity when you can do that effectively. For instance, when you can simply sit down with a patient and they can tell by your body language that you're tired, right? It's like I got up with my 1-year-old last night at 2:00, and when they don't go back to sleep for 45 minutes, you're wide awake at that point. and you try to go back to sleep. And, it was a couple hours after that I finally went to bed, which was like basically a 30-minute power nap. So you're just like, okay, you're meeting with that patient like, hey, I'll be honest, I'm exhausted right now, but, and I'm kind of like, it's kind of a rough day, but either way, I'm going to provide the best care possible for you, and we're going to get through this together. Then when you're vulnerable with that patient and not just faking it with that authentic self, then they give you grace, right? And you don't have to put on a front or a mask, which ends up burning you out, because once again, like you have this like perfectionistic like mindset of being a dentist or a provider, and you're like, it's okay to not be perfect, but you get that grace from the patient with being vulnerable and leading that way.
Yeah. And from your team too. I mean, there's been times like I just tell them like, listen, like just rough day. Like anything in particular? No, just a rough day, having a hard day. Yeah. I just need you to handle this for me and stop complaining. Just shut up for once and do it. No.
To this quote by George Patton. So I just finished Shoe Dog, which if you have never read that book, so good. It's about the story of Nike.
Guys, it's Shoe Dog, not Dog Shoe.
Yes, Shoe Dog. But he quotes this quote by George Patton, General George Patton. He says, "Tell them what to do and let them surprise you with their results." Right? And it's not about dictation, right? It's not like, hey, do what I say, right? And there's some times where you have to create parameters and flexibility. We all know this, but still, yet we get hung up on the perfectionism of what we tell people, that we don't allow them to surprise us. But if we can do that, then burnout gets a lot less, and leadership gets a lot more effective for sure.
So, kind of bouncing back to our histories, music is yours, skateboarding's mine. I think it's worth mentioning to people in the group, because we always hear, people asking like, hey, how do you deal with burnout? Like, how do you deal with being worn out? And honestly, like, I'm sure I might be speaking for you, Kirk, but like skateboarding's my outlet. Like fishing's my outlet. Like music, I'm sure, I play drums too. It's been a hot minute since I played drums, but music, that's a great avenue for having your outlet to just be you. When we're putting on and having to be on all the time, having a space where you can be off, right? Like you can crush it however you want.
And you can cry, ugly cry. You can sweat it out, whatever it is. Like
break your wrist.
Don't do that. Don't do that. Okay. And I know my wife won't be listening to this, hopefully. So, so my wife's the dentist, right? So, I will be honest, right now is the most mentally healthy she's ever been since we bought the practice in 6 years. Simply because, one, we're not going through maternity leaves. That's a whole nother story. Which would be potentially a good episode. Like, how do you get through maternity leaves? We can do that one. Make a comment with a 5-star if you want to hear that. But because she has her outlet really nailed down, she loves running, and she has a goal outside of the practice to run these half marathons. I think we're looking at one in like France or something now. It's like, oh boy, like, I don't know if we needed to do this, right? But still, like, that's her outlet. And so now, like, she started a group to try to help others with movement and just getting off the couch and getting out there and stuff. So like, that's her creative outlet, and where she can really have her thoughts to herself outside of the practice. And she is so much better for it.
Well, what's wild too is now that you mentioned that, like every single day that I'm like, I open up Facebook and I see your wife's reel of her running or you working out, like the consistency. And it's like, I know you're laughing, but it's like there's a consistency there, but there's also like a drive and a passion behind that. And we can circle all this back around, but like, that's what brings the joy to be able to go to work and work hard for our families, right? Like finding that outlet. And it doesn't have to, like, you don't have to be a pro skater to have an outlet. You don't have to be a professional musician to have an outlet. Like you can paint like a 2-year-old and that be your outlet. Like it doesn't matter how good you are at it. It's giving you a space to be able to step away and just say, this is me. This is what I love to do. And you know, if you
3,000 piece puzzles on our table right now. Like our kids love it, right? Well, to some, yes, but it can be an outlet.
Pieces in a Ziploc bag and put it away so they get to the end. That's torture, dude. Oh man. But no, it's important to have that outlet, because I hear it so many times. And as we were talking, I was like, you know, we need to kind of tag this conversation in here a little bit, just because it's important for people to know, like, everybody's like, how do you deal with burnout? How do you deal with burnout? And then unfortunately, like, you know, a lot of people like lots of wine and, you know, all these things. And I'm like, well, no, like, let's not do that when you're stressed out, but like, let's find something that you can enjoy. Like, even if it's just reading a book, sitting outside, watching the sunset, like, start small. It's just like with goals. Like, you don't have to come up with this whole grand idea that, like, you know, you're going to do, you know, an Ironman tomorrow. Like, that takes years of training, right? But like, just start with something. Go out for a walk and just enjoy a bunch of nothing for just a moment. And I think it's prioritizing that is how you battle your burnout, is just prioritizing your passion and your me time.
Sure, for sure. And honestly, letting your kids watch you do it too sometimes, right? So like right now, like I don't like getting up early in the morning, but and like, so that leaves the only time for me to work out is when I'm waiting for my wife to come home from the office. And I get all the kids in the garage and they watch me work out. And then I let them work out too alongside of me sometimes. You know, you can figure out a way to even lead your children in that way, to where they see the process and they see the burnout, right? And they see you overcome that, and they're sponges. So naturally, if you can do it in a positive way, it really shows them that there's the ability to not fall into these vices that so many do.
No, it's been a ton of fun. I love being able to share like unlikely situations that, you know, just turn into something awesome. And, you know, just thinking about like how much an outside career can like literally affect a whole different industry. You know, and, you know, you and I are just getting started, right? Like with what we're doing and what we're planning on doing with dentistry, and we're not going anywhere soon. So guys, I'm really excited to like have this space to be able to chat and talk with you. And like Kirk said, post a comment in this with 5 stars. Give us suggestions on topics. Kirk and I will be probably 2 of the very, very few people in the entire space that will talk about any topic that you give to us. We're not going to shy away from the hard ones. Like we'll do our best to take a stab at what our opinion is on it. Doesn't mean it's right and that we're perfect on it, but we'll be open about it and say, hey, yeah, we'll talk through this and hopefully we can be of help to you.
Or we'll find somebody who is an expert in it and bring it to you.
Absolutely. All right. Any final thoughts, Kirk?
No, I mean, this is the Skateboarding Rockstars signing off, I guess.
Until next episode, guys, this is the conclusion of Management Unfiltered. We'll talk to you soon.